Hi everyone, my name is Hejin, and today I'm going to share this step-by-step tutorial of an off-shoulder shirred dress with laces. Here are the dresses that inspired me to make this dress. They have ruffles, shirring, and laces. For my dress, I picked this cotton tanalon and this lace. On the left, you can see the design I had in mind, and on the right is the result. Now, let's find out what we need for this dress. For this dress, we would need 4 measurements. Measurement A would be the measurement around the shoulder and the arms area. This will be where the top of the dress would land. Measurement B will be the bust measurement. Measurement C is the measurement between the upper bust and the waist. Lastly, measurement D will be the waist measurement. For notions, we need lace trim, elastic thread for the shirring, elastic band for the ruffle, and regular sewing thread of matching colors. We'll follow these steps to make this dress. First, we'll make the shirt top and the ruffle, move on to making the skirt, make the dress by combining the top and the skirt, and finish by attaching the ruffle. Let's start by drafting the patterns. For the top pieces, we would need measurements B and C. B is the bust measurement and C is the measurement between the upper bust and the waist. First, we'll cut 2 rectangle pieces. The width is half of the measurement B times 1.5 plus 2 centimeters, which is the seam allowance. We're first halving measurement B because each piece covers the front and the back respectively. The length is measurement C plus 2 centimeters of seam allowance. After cutting these rectangles, we'll cut out the top corners in triangles, which is 10 centimeters in width and 5 centimeters in length. These corners are cut for the armpits. In case you're working in inches, the seam allowance is 0.78 inches, and triangles are 3.9 inches in width and 1.9 inches in length. For the ruffle, we would need measurement A, which is the measurement around the shoulder and the arms area. First, we'll cut a fabric rectangle of measurement A times 2 in width and in desired length. Next, we'll cut the lace trim in the same width, measurement A times 2. For the elastic band, it'll be almost A, but with desired tightness. This is totally up to your preference of how tight you want your ruffles to be. The best way to figure it out is actually by tying the elastic band around your shoulder area and seeing how snug you want it to be. When you found your perfect length, please add 1 centimeter of seam allowance. For the skirt, we need waist measurement, measurement D. First, we should decide on the desired length of the first tier. I set mine to be 33 centimeters or 12.9 inches. Then we can calculate the second and the third tier's length, which is the first tier's length times 0.8. I designed it to be 20% shorter than the first tier. Next, let's calculate the widths of each tier. First tier is measurement D times 2.5 in width. We'll gather the top to match the shirt top later. Second tier's width is the first tier's width times 1.2. Third tier's width is second tier's width times 1.5. These ratios are based on my preference of how puffy the skirt should be. So if you want to, you could experiment with it and find the perfect ratio for your own project as well. Last but not least, we should cut 2 pieces of the lace trim. First piece should match the width of the first tier. Second piece should match the width of the second tier. And that's pretty much it. With all these pieces, let's get to the fun part, sewing them together. Here you can see how triangles are cut on each corner, 10 centimeters in width and 5 centimeters in length. Before I begin, I stitched the top so that it looks neat. Now from the top stitch line, we'll be sewing one line at a time, which is 1 centimeter apart from the previous one. If you find it easier, you could actually draw each line with a water-soluble marking pen. Personally, I prefer to set the needle's distance from the presser foot's edge to be 1 centimeter and gently sew along the previous line on the right, like this. Now let's take a look at the elastic thread here. First, we need to wind the elastic thread onto the empty bobbin by hand. It's really important to maintain the right tension while doing this. We wouldn't want it to be too tight or too loose because it'll affect the tension of the shirring. When the bobbin's full, place it in the bottom and make sure that the elastic thread is hooked into the machine. Also, we need to adjust the tension. I set mine to 3. Next, I set the stitch length to 4.5. After checking the elastic thread in place with adjusted tension in the stitch length, we can now start shirring. It's basically the same stitches with the normal thread, so we don't have to worry too much. Here you can see the fabric shirring in the back as it passes the needle. And here's our first line of shirring. In fact, at first it might not look too shirred with 1 or 2 lines, but if you keep sewing, it actually gathers up pretty quickly, so don't worry about it. And this is what it looks like when you shirr the entire fabric. It's also nice to check on the back side to make sure that they're evenly spread out. Before we move on though, I want to show you something really interesting about the elastic thread. If you take a closer look at this shirred piece, you can see that it's about 38 centimeters in width right now after I finish sewing. But when you steam it, it shrinks like this. I'm sure you can see it shrink a little bit every time I apply steam. This is because elastic is made of polymer, and the long chain of molecules can shrink when it's exposed to heat, which in turn causes the synthetic polymers to contract. This is actually one of my favorite parts of shirring. I find it really cute that it shrinks. Now let's find out how much it shrank. Remember it used to be 38 centimeters? Now it's almost 31.5 centimeters. Isn't it crazy? After shirring both pieces, let's combine them on one side. Next, let's make the ruffle. First, we'll connect the edges of the long ruffle piece. Put the right sides together and sew along the edge with 1 centimeter of seam allowance. Next, we'll make the casing for the elastic band we cut. Casing is like a tunnel in which the elastic band will go through. Like this, we'll fold the top and sew it to create this tunnel. For this, let's mark where it's 3 centimeters from the top and draw a line where we'll fold the top to. One thing we need to know is that we want to leave an opening of this casing. I'll leave 2 centimeters open after sewing the rest so that we could insert the elastic band and pull out to make a loop. Like this, I mark the start of the opening and pin the end so that I stop sewing at the pin. Here's my mark of the opening, and I'll stop right here. Next, let's put a safety pin on one end of the elastic band and insert it through the casing. The metal end of this pin will help us move the elastic band ahead. Before we move on though, let's pin the other end to the opening so that we don't lose it while pulling the elastic thread when we're almost done. When we're done moving the head of the band around the casing, we'll finally pull it out from the opening. Next, we'll be sewing the ends of the band together. When the ends are sewn together, we'll complete the ruffle by closing the opening. Now all we need to do is to cut the lace trim to match the length of the ruffle's hem and to attach it. Next, let's move on to making the skirt. First, we need to set the tension and the stitch length to be suitable for gathering the top of each tier. For my machine, it was 5 for the tension and 4.0 for the stitch length. Now let's gather the top of each tier. After stitching, gently pull the fabric to the left so it gathers naturally. I find it helpful to gather the top of each tier to match the width of the tier above it, as it helps preparing for the combination. Next, we'll attach each lace piece to its corresponding tier. The lace piece that matches the width of the first tier should be attached to the top of the second tier, and the one that matches the width of the second tier should be attached to the top of the third tier. When you're done attaching the lace on the second and the third tier, we're ready to combine all 3 pieces to create one skirt. Let's carefully pin the top of the lace onto the hem of the tier above it. Now with all 3 tiers combined, we'll have this one long piece of skirt with lace inserts. Next, let's make the dress with the top and the skirt. Here, we're combining the bottom of the shirred top with the gathered top of the skirt. One thing to remember is that the top piece is now shirred, so we need to gently spread it while pinning it to the skirt like this. This way, we maintain the elasticity of the shirred top, so we could wear it easily when it's complete. After sewing them together, this is what it should look like on the right side. Finally, we're going to pin the open ends together to create the dress. Starting from the top, let's pin them together. We should always pay attention to match the waistline, laces, and the tiers while doing this. When the dress is complete, we'll move on to the last step, attaching the ruffle. First, let's fold the ruffle in half and mark the half point on both sides. Next, we'll do the same for the shirt top so that we could sew it symmetrically. Now, let's pin the ruffle on top of the shirt top, matching the half points. At this point though, I'm pinning them together temporarily to see if it becomes symmetrical. We'll be adjusting the pins and details in the next step after confirming the symmetry. Now, let's pin them more accurately and place the first shirring line right below the ruffle's casing so we don't sew on top of the elastic band. After pinning them together, let's start sewing. This is going to be the last step of this dress. And here's my off-shoulder shirred dress. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'd love to see your off-shoulder shirred dresses. See you next time!